Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We Believe Digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, We Believe Digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good evening and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live right here in Jackson, Mississippi. In Jackson, Mississippi, a city that's in the limelight. I was watching YouTube last night and the video came on about Jackson, Mississippi. And it stated that we were the highest crime city in America. St. Louis, Indiana. Jackson, Mississippi, known for a lot of good things, but the negatives are outweighing the good on any given day. And as long as that is occurring, you're going to continue to be last in all of the critical things that identify quality of life, and you're going to continue to be last when it comes to education, and continue to be last when it comes to health care, and many more things. 20+% of our population lives below the poverty level. So we got a lot of work to do, and that's why Doc and Sock is coming to you now 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, because somebody has got to shed some light on this situation, and somebody has got to offer up solutions. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, subscribe to the program, send us stars, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these great shows. Over on YouTube, do the same thing. Subscribe to the program, hit the notification bell. On TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, do the same thing. Wherever you're getting your streaming from, you can find We Believe Digital Broadcast right there for you. Doc and Sock, 3 days a week now, 5:30. Don't miss it. Now, Doc, it's always good to have you here. And I'd like to always tell our viewers that my co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, was born on a Mississippi plantation. He has overcome that, risen above that, and he's made something out of himself. But yet, because of that humble beginning, he remains a man with humility. He's one of the most sought after speakers in the whole country. You can get him to your churches, your schools, or anywhere else. You need somebody to bring you some information, or as they say on Sunday, somebody that can bring you the word. Doc, it's always good to see you. How have you been?
Thank you, Mr. Socrates. I'm doing well, been doing well for a long time. I don't usually have a lot of excuses, even when I'm feeling bad, because there's no need to share that. And when you start sharing bad news, you end up with bad news. So I just keep on kicking. I don't have any excuses. I'm still alive. I'm still working every day. And I intend to continue at least another 35 or 40 years.
Now, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Well, it's very simple, folks. If you want to hear the real news and be able to understand what you need to do in order to change your status, you should call us at 601-201-1957. We call this the PCAP Media Team, and we will come in groups of 2 or 3 and talk to you about economic development, religion, leadership, politics, and of course, anything else that's related to those areas. We have over 200 different topics that we can talk about, at least 3 to 5 hours each. Also, you can email us at clu369 CLU369@gmail.com. That's CLU369@gmail.com. And we're available 7 days a week. Call us. We want to talk with you.
Now, you heard it right there from the gentleman himself. So if you want to get in touch with you, he gave you the numbers and he also gave you the email address. Now we're going to get right into our show. Now, Doc, you mentioned that you don't complain. Even when you don't feel well, that you don't complain. And Doc, the words are powerful because if you told somebody they didn't look well, every time you saw them, they would eventually become sick.
They will. Matter of fact, they will psychologically really be sick. They just say, here's Socrates. I know he's going to say, I'm not looking good today. And I sure don't feel good because when I see him, I feel worse. That's what a lot of people do. That's why I keep it strong, act just like I'm a perfect person health-wise, and be about to fall dead, but nobody knows it but me.
You got to keep the metal to the pedal and keep it strong until you run into a wall. That's when you know it's time to quit.
That's right.
When you run into the wall, then it's time to quit. Until then, you got to be in it to win it. You got to stay strong, and you can never quit.
And let me tell you something, excuse me. Sometimes, and I talk to people about this kind of thing, you say, well, I know I've made the last step that I can make in this matter. You know that is not true. If you can wiggle that toe, you can move that foot one more time, or that arm, or that leg, and make another step. And if you do this continuously, you start making 2 and 3 at a time. And then later on, you find you forget that you are feeling bad or you are sick, and you start running. And when you know anything, 2 or 3 years then pass, and you've forgotten your situation.
You forgot your situation and went on to do great things.
Exactly.
Your last years ought to be your most defining years. You know, that's why they pay you the most money just before you retire, because you moved up the ladder, you gained critical experience and knowledge, and you did your best work in your later years. So Doc and I are here in our later years, and we're sharing and bringing you nothing but the truth. With the pinches of comfort, we bring you the truth. Now we're going to move right into the program today. And Doc, I want to talk about the Mississippi governor's race.
Good.
Now, Doc, the Democratic Party has not filled a candidate for governor of the great state of Mississippi. What kind of signal is that sending?
That's a signal that the Democratic major leaders, I call it the leadership, don't have confidence in democracy. It also shows that they don't have the proper leadership initiatives among the so-called heads in the Democratic Party to figure out a way where they can get a viable candidate to run for governor as a Democrat, and then put their strategies together and use that ability that they're supposed to have to find all the non-voters, the moderates, the liberals, and others, and put them together in a coalition and win as the governorship should be in the Democratic Party if that's what they want. Why they think they can't beat a Republican?
Well, Doc, if we don't have a Democratic candidate, then since Jackson is 85 and 95% African American, and I would assume that that means it's 85% Democrats. And so what are the black folks in Jackson supposed to do when it comes time to vote for governor?
Well, it's very simple. They still vote, and they vote Republican. That's what they're supposed to do. You don't not vote just because your favorite candidate is not running. You look at all the candidates that's running for governor on the Republican ticket. And I guarantee you, some going to be a super conservative person, male or female. You're going to have one that's a semi-moderate. You're going to have some that's totally crazy. And you will also have another one probably that can be determined to be a mover and a shifter if he or she sees that they can win. So if you start building coalitions and recruiting new voters, those that just finished high school, those that are in college from different states that's in your area, they could be voting in Mississippi if they declare they want to do so. Just become a citizen of the state. Many of them are here 4 and 6 and 7 and 8 years. on and on. A good, smart Democrat leadership will either vote for a Republican or field their own Democrat and build a party and get these new non-voters and the liberals and the conservatives that tired of being a conservative loser can move and surprise their whole country.
Now, Doc, there is some trickery associated with this now. If blacks don't have a Democratic candidate to vote in the governor's race and they go over and they vote for the Republican candidate, those individuals that are running for office on the Democratic ticket in the board of supervisors and the judges, etc., there's a conflict. How do you get back to support that group of people while you're over here in the Republican Party supporting a candidate for governor?
Well, that's not difficult to figure out. You find that the other lower candidates on the city and the county level are usually going to be put in office with about 17 to 25% of the vote. So they're going to win almost with the same voters they've been getting ever since they've been in office. So I wouldn't worry about that.
So you would vote Republican in the primary and in the general election, you would vote Republican.
Exactly.
For governor.
Exactly.
My question still remains, though, if you do that, can you vote for the Democratic candidate for the Board of Supervisors?
No, you can't. But see, everyone is not going to do that. Whenever you start any kind of new voting strategy, you're going to have anywhere 30 to 40 or 50% voting. And since you only have a handful that are selecting the supervisors and the lower level people like the sheriff in certain counties, especially where you have a large black population, those people are going to vote for the same person almost anyway. And the percentage is going to be low and they're going to win almost every time.
So now, right now, the Democrats are complaining that only 20% of the population is exercising their right to vote. 20% of the population, that 80% of our people are not voting anyway.
Well, that's the Democrats' fault and others. The colleges, the universities, the high school graduates, the high school dropout and college dropouts are by the thousands in Mississippi. A lot of those people are not even expected to vote. Many are not encouraged to vote, and others are not even recruited. So you just leave that population out there, which is 50 to 60% of the non-voters. And if you recruit those folks, you'll be surprised for the first time, if you start talking and teaching civics and things of that nature, you can get a new voter by the thousands in the state of Mississippi and other places where you neglect the non-voters.
So for those of you that are thinking about what you should do in the governor's race, if there is no Democratic candidate for you to support, it is important that you influence the outcome in the Republican primary, that you vote for the most moderate Republican that you can find, someone that you might be able to work with, someone that you will have access to when this is all over, and so that you won't be locked out of a relationship in the governor's office. Now, our past mayor and many mayors before that found themselves locked out when it came to access to the governor's office. And Doc, that is not a good place to be. George Flaggs over in Vicksburg, Mississippi, was one of the few black mayors that said openly and publicly that he was going to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump to see if he could get some benefits for his citizens in Vicksburg. But we have not done that in Jackson, Mississippi.
No, because they were staunch Democrats and they didn't like Republicans for good reasons. But that doesn't mean you can't work with people just because you don't like them. You look at their political philosophy, you look at their conservatism or whatever they might have that you consider a negative, you still work with them. You just can't say, I have a governor or have a president and you don't want to talk to him. Those folks make a decision and make them every day that determine your destiny from birth to death, or at least as long as they're in office. And even when they get out of office, they have so much power because the person that replaced them is usually one that they selected. They still have power, usually for 25 to 30 years, whether they're in office or not. So you have to learn how to work with those folks, find the most moderate one you can, let him or her know that you're going to build coalitions to help them win, and you go on and vote and forget about what others might say.
Well, you got to go to church on Sunday morning, and you got to go to your schools. And so I understand that it's difficult when people start calling you traitors and things of that nature because you exercise your right to vote for the candidate of your choice, be it in the Republican or Democratic Party. And we get so ugly out here, Doc. We say the cruelest things about individuals that are exercising their right to vote for a candidate that you don't seem to appreciate and have disagreement with. And so it's going to take a great deal of courage for you to walk over in the Republican primary line in when everybody is accustomed to seeing you in the Democratic line. And now here you are today voting in the Republican line, and people are going to start calling you ugly names, Doc.
Well,
so you have to be prepared for that.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. I don't worry about that. I've been criticized one way or the other all my life, good and bad, and I'm still kicking. I worry about that very, very little because I do know the very person that's criticizing me has a flaw somewhere too. And if I wanted to, I could bring that up in public, but I usually don't. I always talk to my critics individually and let him or her know, or the small group, I always do this in small groups or individually, and say, this is my problem as you see it. And your situation is worse than mine. Do you know or remember this and that? Now, let's talk about this publicly. You don't hear much else.
Now, Doc, Mississippi has the highest number of Black elected officials of any other state in the country. We have more people in the House of Representatives and in the Senate in Mississippi on the state level now than any other state. And yet, Doc, we are unable to force legislative change. We are unable to make absolutely certain that Jackson gets his fair share of revenue. One of the reasons that we stated that caused the Jackson water to fail is because of the lack of resources, and the money was being withheld by the state of Mississippi. It would go to any other city other than the capital city, which is 85% Black. And so the Black legislators are unable to bring about a change in that circumstance. Now, are we saying then that to be effective, we're going to have more Blacks needed in the Republican Party in the legislature than all of them being in the Democratic
Well,
Party?
that's one strategy. You should always have Blacks in all parties. And that should be a planned deal with the major leaders in your respective states. You don't want all the people in one party or in one religious denomination. You want to have people scattered out in areas so they can be what I call the legal spies in those organizations that's designed to destroy them. And at that point, you can find that you can share information, and all groups do it. And that will help you get more clout later on. You just can't be one mind-centered person where you just say, I'm just going to do one thing and I hope my time will come. Your time will not come, not during your lifetime. You have to do something different, strange, and radical in order to have some significant change within 5 to 10 or 15 years.
Freedom is not free. We've heard that 1,000 times now. And so somebody has to go inside. Somebody has to be agitating on the outside. All of us have to be working for a common agenda, even though we may be wearing different uniforms and different colors. The objective is the same, to try and raise the quality of life for Mississippians, whether you're in the rural area or in the capital city of Jackson. We got to have a new strategy. Now, those of you that work out there that are running for the supervisors' jobs and the airport authority and school boards and all of that, We understand that if only 20% of the blacks are voting in elections now, and then we lose 10% or half of those to go over to the Republican Party, then less than 10% of the remaining black folks will be deciding who are in these offices on a local basis. Doc, that's kind of concerning.
Well, it is concerning, but you don't have to worry about that because the same people are going to be voting anyway. And you're not going to see any significant changes because you have the same candidates. And black people and other people that's not happy with their candidates are going to have to groom their candidates starting in high school and get those young people started to think it's important that I get in student government, that I join a variety of high school and college associations and groups, that I learn debate skills, I learn leadership skills, I learn problem solving and negotiation skills. And I'm going to get myself hooked in the organizations. I'm going to become an officer in the organization. And in 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be a leader in whatever group or organization I'm in. And I'm going to move forward in another one until I'm in a regional position. And then when I'm in the regional level, I'm going to put myself in as a candidate politically or become a person with leadership position in church and economic societies and so forth, and still be able to wheel and deal with the politicians, elected and appointed, and be significant. And I can make a difference that way. That's where you have to look at it.
Well, Doc, I agree with you that you got to start young and you got to start grooming and training and teaching. And you got to hope that they will not betray you, that they will not see all of the largesse that's available to them if they vote with the opposition. And sometimes leave you standing there by yourself, even though you handpicked and groomed them. When they get in the position, they betray you.
Well, you make sure those people don't do that with one time. There are a lot of ways to get a person out of office. I haven't seen a person alive today, nor one in the past, that you couldn't get out of office during his or her term if you did a lot of personal research and talked to people that knew that person from when they were, I would say, 10 years old up to the current. You can find a way to get them out, and they will personally resign, or they will say they are sick, or they will say, well, I'm doing to get out of here for a while because of family reasons. And if they don't, you let them know tomorrow at 12 noon, we're going to have a news conference about you, and here is the information that we're going to share with the public. Can you agree with this, sir? They will look at it and say, no, my wife told me I need to take off for about 5 years.
We have a lot of people dropping out of races because someone brought the information.
That's exactly the way it's done.
And bad candidates and some good candidates are forced out of office.
Or you can use another strategy that Republicans, Democrats, preachers, and teachers use. You can always say, well, now you've been the governor's lieutenant governor, you've been a supervisor or whatever, and you only make $105,000, and you are not effective. We're going to help you. We have another organization that we want you to become the director of. It pays $125,000. You're going to be full-time, but you're going to have 3 aides, and all you do is make suggestions, do recommendations, sign requisitions, and you're still going to get paid.
Well, Doc, we're going to talk about redistricting because that is still a legislative issue. Now, some say that this rush to redistrict, draw these lines, to gerrymander these lines again, is designed to remove Congressman Thompson. In Mississippi, it's called the Benny Thompson Removal Act. We don't call it redistricting. We call it the Benny Thompson Removal Act. And it has gained a lot of traction in Mississippi. And Mississippi only has one black elected official out of all our representation in Washington, D.C., in a state that's 40% greater in population of African American descent. And yet we want to remove the only black that we have representing us. When is enough, Doc? Why don't white people understand that Mississippi takes itself backwards if it eliminates the only person that we have in D.C. represent the great state of Mississippi?
Well, I would say 99% of the white people are not concerned about that. They have historically no respect for black people during slavery, during Reconstruction, after Reconstruction, up until today. We are considered a non-entity, and most white people that I know and have known don't want blacks to have any kind of leadership initiative in any area where they are going to be impacted. I mean, the white folks, they want to make all the decisions. They want to make all the big money. They want all the big jobs, and they make sure they want to handle purchasing, finance, and policy making. And they don't want a moderate black to have any kind of position of responsibility in anything. And I didn't say liberal, I say moderate.
Wow. And Doc, to your point, there are some 179 department heads and over all of our state agencies and things of that nature. And Doc, there are very few black people in charge of departments in the state of Mississippi. Very few.
What few? Can you name two?
I cannot even name two.
I can't name one that's heading a significant state operation. Not one. Now, there might be one, but I don't know him or her.
If someone out there knows what black is head a department, then please put it in the comments. We'll see it there, and you put it in the chat, or you can call us. And so the deal is that we can't find black representation in department heads in the state of Mississippi. And yet, our white friends and brothers and sisters are angered when we say that there is racism in Mississippi, that, can't y'all get over it? Can't y'all move on beyond the days of slavery? But Doc, I don't think the days of slavery have ended. It's shifted, its persona. It's got a new facelift.
And a new name. Right.
But it still exists.
It still exists, going to continue to exist until certain people that are allegedly to be enslaved say, I'm tired of it, I'm not going to take it anymore, and start strategizing and do something about it, starting on the local level and moving on up on the regional level and then the state level. Now, you are going to have a lot of assistance here. If you have a division where they have 4 or 5 different commissioners, for instance, and you get one that's called a black person, that is not a state leader. That person is going to be discriminated against. If you look at the budget of those folks, those black ones, and you look at the last 2 white ones that had that position and look at their budget and their staff, and then to get a black one in, you're going to look and see that someone somewhere have had a chance to change the rules and made different policies that they didn't share with the new black that just got in office, because he's going to have to learn everything within a matter of weeks. And his budget has been cut. Some of his known work hogs in that area before he got in office going to be hired in his competitor's department in the same field. And then they're going to say, well, we're going to replace him with spies that they're going to get in office. They are usually going to be young college graduates. And you're going to have what I call an infection within that black new commission or whatever. And he or she is going to be so tight, they're not going to even know what's going on for 6 months, because they don't do what they're supposed to do before they get in office. Before you decide to run for office, you ought to study that office for at least 6 months and know all the policies for the last 10 years. You should know who had the last contracts for the last 10 years. You should know the evaluation of all the major leaders in that department you want to get for the last 5 years, and on and on and on. And you want to know how much conflict of interest there, how many cousins and uncles and brothers and nephews in the various departments. Those are things you have to understand. And the last one you got to know, did they give any contracts to Indians, Mexicans, black females, and black males? And if so, what percentage? If you don't know that before you get in office, you shouldn't be running for office.
Doc, I don't think the people that we have in office have any idea what those numbers look like.
I doubt it. But I've told many about it privately. This is what you're going to do. And they tell me, man, I can't do that. Say, I'm trying to raise some money. I say, that's one of the first things you're supposed to have when you run for office. You have to have your money already together, or at least have your donors in a position where they can give you $20, $30, $40,000.
Or you got to be comfortable with your poverty status, and you cannot be bought. You cannot let anybody ride your back.
Well, sir, now I don't want you to pull your pistol out on me. Now, some people can be too poor economically to run for a public office. Now, you don't like to hear that. I told you that before. You told me I shouldn't say that. But there are certain people, sir, that shouldn't be doing certain things. For instance, if you have cancer and you've been told by a doctor that your cancer is probably going to kill you in 2 years, you shouldn't go and decide to run for public office, and you know you're falling fast, and you know yourself you're not going to be able to do this job that's going to require full-time work, and it's supposed to be a part-time job, and you're doing 16 and 18 hours working in the future as being a sick person versus the 5 or 6 hours you're working while you're sick now and can't hardly make it. You're not going to be successful. And that's why when you have a certain economic ability, when it's limited, you have limited leadership skills, shouldn't anybody support a person like that to run for public office the first time?
Well, you have to be reminded that Jesus came into existence as one of the poorest people in the world, rode into Jerusalem on the back of an ass, on a donkey, born in a barn, in a manger. So we believe that, that some good can come out of extreme poverty.
Well, in a very few cases, but what you all don't seem to understand, Jesus was one of the smartest administrators around. He looked around and decided that he was going to get people with skills that he didn't have, and he selected some of the best disciples around. He found 12 of them. 3 of them were totally worthless, but at least he had 7 or 8 that were sufficient to help him move around and do great things for 3 years.
Well, Doc, then a poor person can be a great administrator.
They can. That's it.
Okay. I get your point. I just didn't want to say and create a scenario where poor people can aspire to hold these offices.
No, the poor person first ought to try to be the lead administrator for the person in the office that he wants or think he will want in the next 4 or 5 years.
You heard it right here. You were watching Doc and Sob on We Believe Digital Broadcast Network. You're watching us over on Facebook. Go on and subscribe to the program. Send us stars. We need your support there. This program is being brought to you because no one else is going to bring you these kind of conversations, this direct, straight talk that you get here with Doc and Sob. If you're over on YouTube, we appreciate you there. We see that our numbers are growing there each and every day. So we want you to subscribe to the program, send us likes. It's very important. Not only does it help us finance this program, it also keeps us motivated because, it gets lonely when you are John the Baptist out in the wilderness, calling and telling that a better day is coming, that another person will come one day. When you have that role of proclaiming what the future might hold, then you're going to get a lot of hate mail. And so we take it on the chin. We understand the territory that we're in. You got to have tough skin. Politics is a contact sport. We understand that. We're up against a commercial break, and y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Jackson, get ready for a brand new entertainment experience where fun, good vibes, and unforgettable memories all come together. Whether you're planning date night, girls' night out, birthday parties, or you just want to have a good time, we're creating the place for you. 2659 Livingston Road, across from the Medical Mall, Snooty Fox. It's your destination for a good time.
For $1, man.
And we're back. So again, we appreciate the sponsors. I want to send a shout out to those that did the commercial for Snooty Fox, a new eatery, entertainment complex, and event center. It's coming to Livingston Road at 2659 Livingston Road. And we hope to have that more information on the grand opening for that coming up very shortly. So again, we appreciate all of our support, all our vendors, all our advertisers, all our subscribers. We appreciate you. Now, Doc, there's a tremendous amount of consternation about the water department in Jackson. And Doc, I'm reminded that you told me once that on the plantation, when they got ready to dig a well, they had to know where to dig. And I could never figure out exactly how they knew where to dig for that well.
Well, it was very simple. I used to see it, a well being determined. I told you many times, and I've been telling people for years, my grandfather was a well digger for the plantation. He was uneducated. He had a strong second grade education, but he could read, he could do some figuring. And he was also the plantation carpenter. He was also the plantation chimney builder. So he was a man that could do anything he wanted to do. And one of his jobs was to go out and find a well and dig the well the next day. He'll find it today and dig it tomorrow. And he had a fork, a stick that he would use. And he would walk around and the person would say, "No, Sweet." My old granddaddy was called Sweet Henderson. "No, Sweet, I don't want it nowhere but right here. I think this is a good spot." And old grandpa would get that stick, that forked stick, go around. He'd say something like, "It ain't here. It ain't here. No, I want it here. This is the best spot. It ain't here." And he'll go around. "Here it is, right here." And that stick start doing that. And man, they'll start digging the next day and they'll find water every time. Every time.
Doc,
And he couldn't even spell signs. He didn't know anything about
but
signs.
the stick would actually trouble.
That's right. And water would be there every time. I saw it when I was a boy up until I turned 17. And then I got out of there.
Doc, there was Richard Pryor was one of the greatest comedians that ever lived, and he talked about some witchcraft or some kind of thing that happened to Miss Rudolph down there with the monkey and the man with the little bitty feet and stuff. But I guess it could be something into it that people are able to look in your palm and have some indication of what's going to happen to you.
Of course, man. This is human nature. People that have experience and have seen things happen that's not normal, that is realistic ideation. To have things that happen that others don't believe. Because man is different. And there are certain things that happen in your psychic that'll make you believe anything. That's why people say, "I don't care what happened to me. I want to make sure I go to heaven when I die, and I'm going to do it." Now, you know that's a figment of one's imagination. Others, most of the people in the world don't believe in heaven. So why do you believe in it?
Well, Doc, because I'm catching hell, so there gotta be a better day and a better way somewhere.
Well, no, that's the wrong way to look at it. You have to tell yourself, "I'm catching hell here, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to figure out a way to live in heaven on earth." And if you learn to get out of hell while you're on earth, Socrates, and say that I'm going to plan to live in heaven on earth before I die, because I don't know whether I'll get to heaven or not when I die, you start making those plans and make sure you do that. You live in heaven on earth by having the economic, political, social, and religious means, and you will find that if you do that and do smart investing, And then if you're going to get married, marry properly. You will boost your economic, your religious, and your leadership ability to the point where you can learn to live in heaven on earth and your children too. But if you just wait to catch hell all your life, and you will if you don't do anything else about it, and die, suppose you miss heaven because there might not be one. But you know heaven is on earth and hell too. So you just have to make sure you don't live in hell while you're on earth, and you plan to either live in one or the other by what you do or don't do. Just that simple. And a lot of people don't believe that. But folks, I'm telling you, you can determine your destiny from birth to death if you control certain things in your life from birth to death. And that's education and training, economic development, religion, leadership, and politics. Get involved in all of them and do the best you can and say, I'm going to be number one in these areas. Myself and my family and my community going to benefit from what I learn and what I do. That's the way you do it, sir.
Now, Doc, you mentioned one of those things that could lead to your success. You said if you marry properly.
You got to do that, sir.
I didn't quite understand what that means.
Well, it's very simple. A lot of people marry someone because of several reasons. One is because he or she looks well physically. Others marry someone because someone told me that this is a good person, and they don't even know anything about the person. And others say, I'm going to get married because I'm of a certain age now and I need to get a wife or husband. But you haven't even vetted that person. You didn't check out certain factors as, who is this person? Do they have any compatible skills to me? What about their education? How poor are they economically? Do they have a history of being from a mentally incompetent family half of them have been in mental institutions? Half of them have never done anything other than had time in prison. All of them had children out of wedlock. Very few of them got married. They've been shacking all their lives. And if you're a person trying to get somewhere in life, I don't care how beautiful that person is, if you haven't done that vetting and checked on that young man or that lady that you want to marry, and you find out half of those things that I just mentioned have been in that person's life, you stay away from that person.
You stay away from
You stay away from that person and get away from them as far as you can. But of course, you're going to be nice to them. Hello and goodbye.
Doc, I think in the Bible it said something like you need to be equally yoked.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. That means you're going to be equally yoked. That is, if you're doing something that's significant. But now, if you are totally worthless, you can marry anybody you want. All you're doing is promoting the status quo. You're not going to do anything. She's not going to do anything. Your children are going to be worse than both of you. So you are doing nothing but being destructive. And that's why you have to collect a person and then get with him or her and make sure they have at least 25% more good characteristics than you have.
Now, Doc, I don't want to get into classism here because
Get into it.
The deal is, when you were slaves, then I guess everybody was equally yoked. But at some point in time, when some people started getting educated and going to school and becoming doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, and others remain on the farm, and so at this particular point in time, you wouldn't say that a farm girl and a doctor are equally yoked.
Well, they wouldn't, and you didn't find many farm girls marrying doctors during that period. You didn't find many farm girls marrying lawyers. When the lawyer and the doctor, even if they came off a plantation or off a farm, when they moved to Howard University and Xavier University and other places and finished school, you find that they married someone that were similarly yoked educationally and from what we call families that had some economic means. They didn't go back to the plantation and marry John Doe's daughter and selected one daughter out of the 10 that he had that didn't finish the 3rd grade. They've been farmers all their lives. That didn't happen.
Did you see the movie Pretty Woman?
I saw that.
That was a case of where the wealthy and the hooker.
Well, that's because the hooker was smarter than the wealthy person.
Oh.
Now, if you're going to get a genius, it doesn't make any difference where they come from, because Virginians can supersede almost anyone if they want to do so.
Oh, okay, so the looker was smarter than the wealthy.
Of course. And that's a smart move for the wealthy person. That's the way he or she can become more wealthy. Nothing wrong with that.
Doc, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Now, we talked last time we were on Friday about data centers. And Doc, data center issue is one of the dividing issues in our community. And we need to shed a little light on that subject matter. Now, Jackson City Council has voted to have a moratorium on the building of data centers in the city of Jackson. I can't say Hinds County because I believe that Hinds County has a data center in Clinton, Mississippi that they're breaking ground on right now.
That's correct.
And so what do you do when they're building data centers all around you and there's none of the dollars associated, the tax dollars that come from data centers are coming into your area, and you're already the poorest city in the state with 20% of your people living below the poverty level. What kind of advice can we give our leaders who I know want to do the right thing? Again, I want to shout out to King Clay, my representative there in Ward 2. I think you are an outstanding person doing a great job, and I understand your concern. And so I want to see if we can't bring a little bit more light on the pros and cons of data centers. Doc, what do you think?
Well, it's very simple. I don't care what you say. You're going to have data centers in Hinds County and all over Mississippi. So the leaders in Jackson, especially the mayor and the city council, are going to have to say, are other groups building or thinking about building data centers in Hinds County? If so, where are they? And if you look around, you'll find out where they are. Are there others in the Metro Jackson area that's going to build data centers? If so, where are they? How many jobs are going to be coming in? Who's going to get those jobs? Who is going to get that money when the big centers start making thousands and thousands of dollars a day and millions of dollars a year? Who is going to get some of that money? Guess what some people are saying? The city of Jackson is making the best decision in the world. We're going to put data centers all around. We're not going to share the money with them because they are afraid of money. They are worried about the consequences, what might happen when you build it. They are not going to have people with the interest to get trained so they can get those jobs making $75,000 a year, up to $150,000. Those jobs are going to be in engineering and maintenance and construction and all these other technical areas are not going to be given to the Jackson people because they are afraid. We're going to make all the money. The school system's not going to get anything, and they're still going to suffer. So the Jackson mayors or the Hinds County mayors, the city councils and the supervisors need to get together and say, we're going to look at the pros and cons of data centers, and we're going to build one because they're building one right there off I-20 in Clinton. They got them all around the metropolitan Jackson areas in Rankin County and Pearl and places like this, and they're going to have more. They will be generating jobs. It's paying 43% more than the average job today without a person having a college degree. We shared that stat last week. We are going to have one, but we want to have one that's sort of small. And we're going to learn the good and the bad aspects of it. And I guarantee you, when we meet again, we're going to start planning to get one for Hinds County and do it. And then if you get to the point where you have some major problems, you look at what other people are doing to fix the problem. And if there's a shift for population to be moved from around those centers, the big company then that caused the problem, you can have the legislation already designed where they would have to buy those communities out, relocate those folks at a value of their current property plus 10% and get them to a new subdivision somewhere that's built with corporate and state and federal funds.
Doc, I told you once that when my daddy heard that they were going to the moon, he felt like they shouldn't go. He felt like God didn't want us to go to the moon. If he had wanted us to go, he would have built stairwells for us to get there. And I heard an old man say about the first train engine. They said uh, he worked on it and worked on it trying to get it to start. And he looked at him and he said, "You'll never get that thing started." After 3 weeks or 4 weeks or so, they got it to start. He came back and he said, "Well, you'll never stop it." And so our people are hesitant to explore new things beyond what they're accustomed to. And that is part of the reason that we are last in Mississippi, is because opportunities for Delta Airlines and other major industries, the farmers did not want those industries in the state of Mississippi. But Mississippi was tremendously wealthy with cotton and slave labor, and they didn't want industry.
Well, that's what I call bad for Mississippi. They didn't do the right thing during that time, and some of their descendants, especially some of the black elected and appointed politicians, are making the same mistake. You have to start with these new industries. You have to see what kind of training you're going to initiate in the community to get your people involved, because you don't want to have a data center right down from your city or from the supervisor's building, and then you don't find any of your folks that have finished college, that have those degrees and certifications from the community colleges. You don't want to find them all working at Kentucky Fried Chicken or some of the others, Orvis, or somewhere like that. You want your child to be able to be competitive with others. That's why you're going to have more and more poverty in black areas if you don't get up there with the people that's doing things. You don't look for perfection with new industries. You look for the need to come up with corrections. You hear me? Don't look for perfections. You look for reasons to come up with correction. We call it providing a corrective action plan when things are not going right. Human beings are smart enough to solve any human problem that is developed or designed by mankind.
We had the position of a test pilot. This job was to take an aircraft that had never been flown before, and to take it in further places than it had ever gone, and try to bring it back home. Uh, I don't think we had many black test pilots.
No, you didn't, because white folks said blacks not smart enough to fly until they experimented with that Tuskegee group. And they found that those guys were some of the best pilots in the world. And they were trained on some of the worst equipment they had in America. They had some of the most racist trainers that were there, those white officers that were training them. And they still were able to succeed because they worked twice as hard as the white pilots. They worked at night, 16, 18 hours a day. Even when the lights were off, they were in the bathroom, a lot of using flashlights and stuff, studying and trying to get that new stuff, because blacks generally were not exposed to aircraft development and flying and things of that nature. You had one major black pilot at that time was commissioned to train them, and he was looked at as a suspect. And he was only given that position because some of the so-called civil rights leaders started agitating the president, and they finally got his wife to get him in the kitchen and started saying, "Well, Mr. President, you need to give them blacks a little chance. I had a chance to fly with one of them. They can really fly an airplane." And he reluctantly knew they were going to fail. They put a few dollars together, got some old used airplanes, old parts, and put the black groups out in the middle of nowhere and said, "We're going to give you all a few old regular planes. They ain't going to make it no way, and we're going to give you a chance. I'm tired of you all talking about equal rights and civil rights in America. We got a water fight. They're going to fail anyway." That's what they told.
Now, Doc, I don't want to say that white folk have been the single reason that black folks haven't achieved more than we have. when I look at the continent of Africa, the richest continent in the world, with diamonds, with gold, with copper, all kind of rare earth material. The continent has not been developed. This experiment in America has not been reliable in the past, and we don't know if it will be in the future. Well, why haven't we as Africans, descendants of Africans, because we're more mulatto than African, why is it that we haven't done more with our homeland?
What is because we didn't use the strategy and come here with the design as the Europeans did when they left Europe. Some of the worst people in the history of the world were kicked out of Europe, and they came to this so-called non-land that they call the New America. They told those Europeans by the thousands, you're poor, you're a hindrance to this nation, you're poverty prone, you don't have any education, we're going to put you in the pauper prison. If you do well, we won't kill you, we'll let you out, we'll put you on a boat and send you to America. And those white boys and girls said, well, we're going to go to a promised land and we're going to make it because we can't go back to Europe. So they decided we're going to get here, make friends with the people that are here, and take everything they had. The Africans didn't do that. They made friends with the Europeans when they were in the majority. And they let them confuse them and tell them they were not significant human beings. And they hired those Europeans, those kings and queens, to be their advisors and gave them money, salaries, colonists within their foundation living areas and say, you Europeans live here. And they supported those guys and few women by giving them maids and assistants to do their gardening and so forth, while they advised them, advising the king and the queens. And when you know anything, those people start having their own children with their few wives they had over there, plus the black women that was working with them as maids and gardeners and aides to their few kids that they had. And when you knew anything, those boys were able to get a pretty decent education. And when those old kings and queens got to the point where they could exert their powers, all their advisors then were trained and had that European mentality. And that took them to the point of no return. But the Europeans say, we're going to come in and take over. We're going to take everything. The Africans didn't do that. They let themselves be everything by being too nice to the new people that came to Africa. One of the characteristics that has enslaved us or caused us to understand the kind of things that was necessary. The thousands of years of saying that That's right. Those that were not wanted in Europe at the time. You know, they had pauper prisons. If you couldn't pay your debt in Europe, in most of the European nations, they would put you in prison, in pauper prison, and you stayed there until somebody found enough money to get you out. And you were another slave by another name.
Now we're going to come back and deal with this some more because this is going to take a lot of dealing with to do that. But we're running out of time, and I want to get to international news. And Doc, you know, I've been following this war in Iran now for quite some time, along with the war in Ukraine. And I don't know exactly what America's strategy is when it comes to the war in Iran.
Well, I
Have
can
you
tell
been
you that.
following
Yeah,
this?
I've been following that. They don't have a consistent strategy. You cannot win a war if you don't have your target already defined, the people that's running and making the war already determined, and decide that you're going to take care of those folks in a positive or negative manner. You're either going to compromise with them and give or take a little bit, or you're going to kill them. And sometimes you have to do both. So you can't go and kill some, bomb some, then sit down and talk, and then get upset when they don't give you your way. Then you fight a little more, you kill some, bomb some more, and you spend all your money, use all your weapons against an enemy that you don't even understand. You can't speak his language, you don't know his culture, you don't know nothing about his religion other than it's bad. And when you do that, you can't beat those kind of people in their own country. So you either have to kill them all or you have to compromise and give or take a little bit. And with the strategies that we know about, the major person and groups that want to take over are European or American based. And they want to take over those areas. They want those people to be submissive to them. But those guys have 3,000 years worth of what I call living and experience and culture and religion. And you can't break people like that when they already have planned at least 300 deep in every position. So whoever you kill, there's 299 ready to move up. You kill another 2 or 3, there's 298 ready to move up and take that position, because those people are cross-trained. And you can't kill them all because you're going to use your resources. And then when you get to the point where you can't fight anymore, you're going to either give them an opportunity to get back where they were, and they're going to squeeze you and make you give them more economic largesse than you would get if you had just won the war outright.
Wow.
You end up and lose what I'm saying.
Now, Iran continues to dig in. Doc, there has been a list of demands that Iran is putting on the table now.
Of course.
And those are interesting.
They are very interesting because they're supposed to have lost that war some months ago. And all they did was let America fight them, bomb them, halfway starve them to death, burn them out, poison them out, talk about them and told them they were third, fourth-rate people, that they ought to have a revolution over there and select somebody so we can rule you through that person. And they would say, no, we can't do that. Bomb me if you want. Because they have already built coalitions with others in that area. They're not going to starve to death. The military is not going to have a lot of airplanes and bombs, but they're going to have drones. They're going to have handheld rockets. They're going to have people that don't mind dying. See, Americans don't want to die. They don't want their young boys and girls on the ground. We call put the boots on the ground in Iran. They'll drop a few off over there behind the line. And when they do that, most times they don't succeed. You have to go there and get them and lose 2 or 3 or 12 or 14 or 50 trying to get 2 or 3 out. So you got to look at what you're doing. And if you can't win or don't have the wherewithal to win, you have to sit down and make a compromise. And that's exactly what the Iranians are going to do. They say we're going to put demands on America and Israel, and we don't expect to lose, and we expect you to pay for it in the end. And here they are. They say we want America to fully compensate us for war damages. And we have, as Americans, I'm going to say we, have spent billions of dollars in destructive missiles in Iran. They are saying we want you to withdraw all of your military forces. We want you to end the naval blockade, and we want to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and we want it done soon. Or we're going to get worse. And they're not going to tell the Americans what else they're going to do when they get worse. And since I know what those things are, I'm not going to tell you either. But it's going to be surprising people all over the world if this war doesn't end soon, because it's an unwinnable war the way it's going, because the groups that's starting this war and the groups that's constantly fighting it just might be out of office in the next few years. Then what you going to do? You're going to continue to fight it with a new alignment of Democrats and Republicans? Of course not. You would be so broke as a third world nation yourself. The people in America are going to be fighting themselves against the kind of politicians that's causing us to have no kind of accountability. Food prices over the hedge. Can't even buy a house. Kids can't go to college. On and on and on. Health care is ridiculous. You know, the cost of health care. It's
Doc,
unwinnable the way it's going, sir.
Doc, I don't believe that any ethnic group of color has started a war.
Not voluntarily. Many were forced or paid to participate in it, but now when you say it started, that's a different thing.
Started
I
a
don't
war.
know of any that started one, but there have been many of them were paid or forced to participate in it.
Yes, indeed. But to start one,
Mhm.
I don't see the Chinese haven't started a war that I'm familiar with.
Nor the Japanese, not against America.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I don't know about the Japanese. I mean,
I say they didn't start one against America,
right,
even though they bombed America in Hawaii
right.
on, I believe, December the 7th, 1940 something. But they were only participating in that because America was trying to kill them. They were fighting in the other
Well,
regime.
Hitler's war should have taught a lot of lessons. I mean, Hitler probably could, we would probably all be speaking German today, but he wanted to fight everybody at the same time. He wanted to fight Russia and followed them all the way up in the cold country
Which was to his demise,
to his demise.
I guarantee. That's what I'm telling you. That's why you can't beat folks like that. That's why Americans will never beat the Iranian people and very few groups in the Middle East. They have too many coalitions. They have too much culture. They have too much stamina. See, those people can live on things we would even give to our dogs, food wise. They can take the cold, they can take starvation, and they're still going to live and thrive and be able to fight.
Now, I remember how poor and broke China was when all of the opium and the drugs were poured into China, and they had them exactly where they wanted them.
That's what they thought. That's right.
But now they are the largest economy in the world.
And one day, China will be the number one economy in the world. Russia is going to be a third rate nation. You're going to find that some of the Middle Eastern countries are going to be strong to the point where they're going to dictate what happens in America because they are getting their boys and girls in line now, and they call themselves social democrats to take over the big cities in America. You're going to have them in the House and the Senate. You're going to have them as supervisors and city council people all over America, including the South. And one day, you're going to have a total shift in what we call democracy in America. The new alignment is going to be new religions, new laws, and new people making those decisions. And some of you all are going to be surprised. Well, what happened? Why do I have to learn a foreign language as the major language in America? In 50 years, that's going to be what you're going to hear. You have to have another language to be proficient in to know what's going on in finance, in diplomacy, in things like that.
Doc, I believe that's already occurred in California.
I guarantee. But it's going to be all over America. If we don't change and start practicing something we call democracy, which has never been practiced in the history of America.
My granddaughter came here to visit me from California at about 6 years old, and she did not speak any English at all.
That's amazing. Her mom or dad or somebody married a foreign person, went to school with those.
Her parents were African American, but she went to school with all Spanish children, and the Spanish was the number one language
in the classroom.
in the class.
And that's what she picked up.
That's what she picked up.
That's right. Now she's going to be a very competitive person because she's going to learn enough English eventually where she's going to be multidisciplined in English, Spanish, and probably two or three more.
Probably 2 or 3 more.
That's right.
Now, we're up on the hard end of the show. It's been great to the room, share an idea of concept. We try to do that each and every time we are live. For those of you on YouTube, we appreciate the subscription, Facebook as well. TikTok, we know that you're there. We have a strong presence over there on Twitch and Instagram as well. And so We really value all of our supporters. We're coming to the end of this show, but I'd like for you to be able to get in touch with Doc at any time you need a keynote speaker or an individual to come and address the crowd to let them know what's going on. Doc has forecasted for a long time that we are at the beginning of World War III. And he's been saying this for years, and I'll be doggone if I don't believe that I'm seeing some signs of it coming to fruition here today. Now tell them all how they can get in touch with you.
Well, very, very clear. If you want to hear something different, that's not going to be shortcutted. You'll get facts. You call us at 601-201-1957. That's 601-201-1957. Or you email the L. Henderson PCAT Media Group at clu369@gmail.com. That's clu369@gmail.com. And we are ready to go, folks, anywhere in the world. You call us, we'll make the arrangements together, and we'll show up.
Guys, that's it for our show this evening. Y'all stay safe out there, and good night.
We're going to mess around and accidentally get this thing right if we keep on practicing, man. And I know I'm going to get more sharper. And you're going to get sharper, and we're going to mess around and get this thing right in about another 6 weeks.